Something changed in software development, and most people outside the industry haven't noticed yet. The AI coding tools you heard about 2 years ago, the ones that finished your sentences, aren't doing that anymore. Or rather, they're doing something far more consequential. Cursor and GitHub Copilot Workspace have quietly crossed a line. They don't suggest code, they architect it. They read entire repositories, form plans, edit multiple files in coordinated sequence, and iterate on their own output. They are, by any functional definition, autonomous agents operating inside your codebase. The question is no longer whether AI can write code. It's whether AI can engineer software. And the honest answer, as of mid-2025, is sometimes yes, sometimes catastrophically no. Here's what this looks like in practice. You open Cursor, type a natural language instruction like add user authentication with OAuth to this Express app, and the agent doesn't just write one function. It analyzes your project structure, it identifies your routing layer, your middleware, your database models. It creates new files, an auth controller, a token utility, migration scripts. It modifies existing files, adding middleware to protected routes, updating your app entry point. It does this across 10, 15, sometimes 20 files in a single pass. Copilot Workspace takes a different path to the same destination. You start with a GitHub issue. The system generates a structured plan, a written specification of what files to create, what files to modify, and why. You review the plan before any code is written. Then it executes. Both tools iterate. They run your tests, read the errors, and attempt fixes. This loop, plan, edit, test, revise, is the core of what makes them agents rather than autocomplete. Cursor's approach is fundamentally open-ended. Its agent mode, built on top of models like Claude and GPT-4, can execute terminal commands, read compiler output, and course correct. Developers describe it as pair programming with a junior engineer who has photographic memory but questionable judgment. The power is real. In early 2025, independent benchmarks from developers like McKay Wrigley and others in the AI engineering community showed Cursor's agent completing multi-step refactors that would take a human developer 30 minutes in under 2. It handles boilerplate brilliantly. CRUD endpoints, database schemas, test scaffolding. The tool excels when the pattern is well established and the codebase conventions are clear. Copilot Workspace, which GitHub has been developing since its technical preview in late 2024, takes the opposite philosophical stance. It forces structure. Before touching code, it generates a written specification and an explicit plan. You see exactly which files it intends to modify and what changes it proposes. This isn't a stylistic difference. It's an engineering constraint that solves a real problem.
By making the plan legible before execution, Workspace gives developers a checkpoint. You catch architectural mistakes before they propagate across 20 files. Microsoft's Kevin Scott described the approach in early 2025 as designed to keep human judgment in the loop at the moments where it matters most. Now the failures, and they are significant. The most dangerous failure mode is what developers have started calling hallucinated architecture. The agent invents plausible-sounding modules, imports from files that don't exist, or creates circular dependencies that compile but collapse at runtime. This happens most often in large, complex codebases where the agent's context window, the amount of code it can actually see, is insufficient to hold the full picture. Cursor's context window, even with its latest models, maxes out. When a repository exceeds that boundary, the agent starts making confident assumptions about code it literally cannot read. It doesn't say, "I don't know," it fabricates. Context overflow is the structural bottleneck. Current large language models operate within token limits, roughly 200,000 tokens for the best available models as of mid-2025. A mid-sized production repository can easily exceed 1 million tokens. The agents use retrieval strategies, pulling in only relevant files, but relevance is itself a judgment call the model sometimes gets wrong. It might pull your API routes but miss your validation layer. It edits one without understanding the other. The result compiles, the tests pass, and the bug ships to production 3 weeks later because the agent didn't know what it didn't know. Experienced developers are converging on a practical framework. Agents work when tasks are bounded, a single feature, a well-scoped refactor, a migration with clear inputs and outputs. They work when test coverage is strong because the agent's self-correction loop depends on tests catching its mistakes. They work when project conventions are explicit, consistent file naming, clear module boundaries, typed interfaces. And critically, they work when humans review every output. The developers getting the most value from these tools aren't the ones trusting them blindly. They're the ones who treat the agent's output as a first draft, a starting point that saves time but demands scrutiny. Here's the mental model that's emerging. Agent-ready tasks share common traits. They follow established patterns, they have clear success criteria, and they operate within a bounded scope. Generating REST endpoints from a schema, writing unit tests for existing functions, creating database migrations, updating documentation, converting code between frameworks with well-known mappings. Human-required tasks are different in kind, not degree. Designing a system's architecture from scratch, writing security-critical authentication logic, optimizing performance in ways that require understanding runtime behavior.
Integrating across systems with undocumented APIs. These tasks require judgment that emerges from experience, context that exceeds any token window, and accountability that no model can bear. The trajectory is clear even if the destination isn't. Context windows are growing. Retrieval strategies are improving. Cursor recently integrated background agents that work asynchronously on tasks while you do other things. Copilot Workspace is expanding its preview. The gap between agent-ready and human-required is narrowing, but it is not closing. The developers who thrive in this transition won't be the ones who either reject these tools or surrender to them. They'll be the ones who understand, with precision, where the boundary is today and notice when it moves. The agents are in the editor now. The question is whether you're directing them or just watching them run.